giving exclusive insight into their work. They're waiting to find out if state Supreme Court justices will grant an appeal of Murdaugh's conviction, which could come this week. Bill Burr heard from the legal teams.
It could be another chapter of Alex Murdaugh's criminal story. Defense attorneys and prosecutors are waiting to hear if the state Supreme Court will grant a retrial on his double murder conviction. In March 2023, a jury found him guilty of killing his wife Maggie and their 22-year-old son Paul.
That's been my job from day one, is to convict the bad guys and then to defend those convictions on appeal.
Creighton Waters is the lead prosecutor in the Murdaugh criminal cases. He says he and his legal team are prepared for whatever the Supreme Court will decide.
None of this is a concern, and none of this is just how the process works and how it should work, frankly. This is America, and everybody has their opportunity, not only for a jury trial, but also the opportunity to appeal their case.
I think Alex Murdaugh is a horrible person for stealing money from people that he represented, who needed the money. I think, and he admits that.
Still, Murdaugh defense attorney Dick Harpootlian contends other factors should be considered for a retrial, including former Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill, who he believes swayed the jury to reach a guilty verdict.
The legal standard is not whether she changed votes, it's whether she tried to change votes, whether she, as a court attaché, attempted to influence the jury. If so, under the federal standard, we get a new trial.
Also, he says a lack of concrete evidence at the Moselle murder scene.
There are people who were involved with drugs, who had a motive, and
that was crazy. Welcome back to Too Close for Comfort, where we peel back the layers of the stories that feel just a little too close and a lot too real. Today, we're diving into the world of the Murdaughs, a dynasty built on power, privilege, and secrets. Let's start with the patriarch, Alex Murdaugh. Born straight in South Carolina legal royalty, Alex wasn't just another lawyer, he was a Murdaugh. For over 100 years, his family basically ran the legal system across several counties. If you wanted justice in Low Country, chances are a Murdaugh name was on the paperwork. Alex looked like the perfect Southern gentleman. Respected attorney, big family property, a wife, 2 sons, and a career built on trust. He shook the right hands, said the right words, and wore that red hair like a badge of tradition. Outside, he was one of the good ones. Inside, though, a storm was brewing. Because behind that polished smile was a man juggling secrets, financial crimes, stolen money, and lies, and also addiction that took over every part of his life. Clients trusted him, friends trusted him, even his community trusted him. But while people were handing him their cases, Alex was losing control of his own. Then came 2021, the year that everything cracked wide open, the year that would expose just how deep the rot ran in the Murdaugh empire. But before that explosion, there was someone else whose stories matter, someone whose choice lit the fuse for the family. Sir Paul Murdaugh, Alex's youngest son, born into wealth, influence, and a name that opened every door before he even learned to walk. Paul grew up on a massive rural estate, riding 4-wheelers, hunting and boating, the classic Southern boy lifestyle, but with no boundaries. People whispered he was charming, funny, and wild, the kid who never really heard the word no. Friends said Paul could light up a room or start a fire in it. He had a playful, energetic side, but also a reckless streak that worried people. He struggled with drinking, and when he drank, his whole personality changed. Still, as a Murdaugh, trouble didn't seem to stick to him. The family name acted like a shield. And that combination, wealth, freedom, and no accountability, created a storm waiting to hit. But before the world heard about boat crashes, lawsuits, and murder trials, Paul was just a young man caught between privilege and chaos, raised in a system built to protect him, a system that would eventually come crashing down on him. Even after Paul and his mother Maggie were murdered in 2021, the events surrounding Paul's life continue to shape the ongoing narrative of the Murdaugh family. His story is now inseparable from the questions of accountability and truth that still linger today. This leads me into the boat incident that happened with Paul. On the night of February 24, 2019, Paul and a group of friends took the family's boat out on the water after a night of drinking. Witnesses later said Paul was heavily intoxicated, slipping into that timid demeanor his friends feared. Around 2 in the morning, the boat approached Archer's Creek near Parrish Island. Despite warnings, Paul insisted on driving. Moments later, the boat slammed into a bridge piling. The impact threw the passengers forward in a violent crash. While several were injured, 19-year-old Mallory Beach was thrown into the water and vanished into the darkness. For 7 days, her friends, family, and the community searched desperately. Her body was eventually found downstream. The tragedy launched a criminal investigation that spotlighted Paul, the underage drinking, the reckless behavior, the Murdaugh name that seemed to shield him from accountability. Lawsuits soon followed, revealing years of alleged misconduct and special treatment. The boat's crash didn't just expose Paul's struggles. It became the moment the Murdaugh dynasty began to unravel. It set in motion a chain of events that pulled the family into the national spotlight, revealing a hidden world of power, secret, and consequences.
Well, a new lawsuit in connection with the Murdaugh family. A passenger from a deadly boat crash in the Low Country suing Alex Murdaugh, his son, and others. Our Shannon Royster joining us now from the studio with the very latest. Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Frank. Well, that passenger, Connor Cook, has filed a personal injury lawsuit in Hampton County in connection to the boat crash back in 2019. 18-year-old Mallory Beach was killed in that crash. Paul Murdaugh was indicted on multiple charges, including boating under the influence. This new civil lawsuit claims Paul's brother Buster gave his driver's license to Paul so he could buy alcohol. It also says a clerk from a Parker's gas station helped Paul get the alcohol. Now, it goes on to say Alex Murdaugh knew his son Paul was an addict or a habitual drinker and should not have entrusted the boat to him. That lawsuit says Alex also misdirected law enforcement and put together a scheme to make sure Cook stayed quiet. Now, there are a lot of layers tied to the Murdaugh family mystery, so we've compiled a timeline for you, dating all.
After the 2019 boat crash that killed 19-year-old Mallory Beach, the Murdaugh world started cracking. The public didn't see it yet, but behind the scenes, everything was getting darker. Paul Murdaugh was charged with 3 felonies. Boating under the influence causing death and 2 counts causing serious injury. Even with those charges, he was released on bond, didn't spend a night in jail, and kept living the same carefree lifestyle he always had. Meanwhile, the Beach family filed a huge wrongful death lawsuit, and that lawsuit wasn't just painful emotionally. It threatened the entire Murdaugh family's finances. Lawyers began digging into Alex Murdaugh's money, his assets, his insurance policies, and what they started fighting didn't add up. But late 2020 and early 2021, the pressure was building. Investigators believe Alex had been stealing money from clients for years, millions of dollars, all while maintaining the appearance of a respected attorney. He was also secretly addicted to opioids, something his own legal partners didn't know until later. The boat crash had opened the floodgates. Reporters were asking questions, lawyers were demanding bank records, and the lawsuit was closing in. A court hearing was scheduled for June 10, 2021, a hearing that would finally expose Alex's financial crimes. If the judge ordered full disclosure, Alex wouldn't just be embarrassed. He could lose everything: his reputation, his practice, his freedom. And because Paul was the defendant in the boat case, Alex felt the crash had put the spotlight directly on him. Friends later said Alex seemed panicked during these weeks. His firm was asking where missing money had gone. The Beach family attorneys were demanding answers. His addiction was getting worse, and his double life, the fraud, the debts, the secrets, was moments away from exploding. Then came the night of June 7, 2021. According to prosecutors, Alex made a desperate, unthinkable decision. They say he drove Paul and Maggie down to the dog kennels on their Moselle property. Paul was shot with a shotgun. Maggie was shot with a rifle, 2 different weapons, but investigators believed one killer. Alex called 911 claiming he had found them dead, but investigators immediately noticed things that didn't match. There was no sign of a struggle, no footprints from another shooter, and no escape route. Most importantly, a video recorded on Paul's phone placed Alex at the kennels just minutes before the murders, even though Alex told police he hadn't been there. Prosecutors said Alex killed his wife and son to buy time. With 2 family members murdered, the upcoming June 10th financial hearing was postponed. The public stopped asking about missing money and focused on sympathy. The boat crash shifted out of the news, and for a moment, Alex gained exactly what he needed: distraction. But that calm didn't last. As investigators dug deeper into the murders, they uncovered years of fraud, theft, lies, staged insurance schemes, and addiction. Everything Alex tried to hide came to the surface, and ultimately, all of it led back to that boat crash. One tragedy exposed another until the entire Murdaugh legacy collapsed.
Wife and son. Alex Murdaugh, whose wife and son were found shot to death in an unsolved case 3 months ago, was shot himself on a rural Hampton County road yesterday. Now the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division is releasing new information. SLED says Alex called 911 at around 1:30 on Saturday. He told a dispatcher he'd been shot on Old Salkehatchie Road near Varnville. We're told Murdaugh's gunshot wound was, quote, superficial. SLED personnel arrived on scene to investigate at around 3:40. They worked throughout the night collecting evidence, processing the crime scene, interviewing potential witnesses, and following up.
Thought that was the end of the Murdaugh story? Well, buckle up. After the boat crash, the lawsuits, the stolen money, and the pressure closing in from every direction, Alex Murdaugh was spiraling. His finances were collapsing, his law firm was asking questions, and the walls were closing in fast. And that's when Alex did something almost unbelievable for him. On September 4th, 2021, Alex called 911 saying he'd been shot on a rural South Carolina road. He claimed he stopped to fix a flat tire when a stranger pulled up and shot him in the head. A random drive-by? Yeah, that's what he wanted everyone to think. But investigators were side-eyeing this story from the jump. Nothing added up. Not the angle of the wound, not the tire, not the mysterious truck that no one seemed to see. Within days, the truth cracked open. Alex had hired someone he knew, to shoot him. Not to kill him, though. At least, not exactly. See, Alex wanted to look like a murder, a tragic, senseless killing of a father, still grieving his wife and son. Why? So his surviving son, Buster, could collect a $2 million life insurance payout. Cousin Eddie, also known as Curtis Smith, he was Alex's longtime friend, sometimes his drug supplier, and in this case, the man Alex tried to recruit in his plan. But Smith told investigators Alex wanted a staged suicide that looked like a murder. Alex claimed he was depressed. Smith claimed Alex was desperate. Either way, the plot blew up immediately. The wounds were superficial, the story was falling apart, and suddenly Alex wasn't a grieving victim. He was the mastermind of a staged shooting. When investigators confronted him, Alex admitted it: the assurance fraud, the plan, the lie. And that confession cracked open everything else: the financial crimes, the pills, the stolen millions, and ultimately, the spotlight that would shift onto Maggie and Paul's murders. The roadside shooting? It wasn't a mystery. It was a last-ditch attempt by a man watching his entire world collapse and trying to script his own end.
Oh, you thought the stage shooting was the craziest part? Alex Murdaugh's arrest story is even wilder, and it's a perfect example of how one lie leads to another until it all comes crashing down. After the September 4th, 2021 roadside shooting, the one Alex orchestrated to look like an attack by a stranger, investigators weren't buying his story. The wound was superficial, the tire situation suspicious, and no one saw the truck he claimed was involved. It didn't take long for the stage shooting to unravel, and when Alex admitted to planning it himself, the rabbit hole widened. But here's the twist. Alex's troubles weren't just about one bad idea. Behind the scenes, he had been stealing millions from his law firm and from vulnerable clients. He funneled settlements meant for victims into his own accounts, hiding it with fake bank statements and forged documents. And when the IRS and law enforcement started asking questions, he panicked. So what happened next? On September 13, 2021, Alex checks into a rehab facility in Florida, claiming he's seeking treatment for opioid addiction. He's trying to appear like a man getting his life together, but investigators are already closing in. They've traced missing funds, suspicious transactions, and the staged shooting. They know Alex has been living a double life, and are ready to act. On September 16, 2021, Alex Murdaugh is arrested at that rehab center. Not for murder, not yet at least, but for insurance fraud, conspiracy, and filing a false police report related to the shooting he planned. The moment he's taken into custody, it's clear the powerful Murdaugh name isn't enough to shield him from the law anymore. But this arrest was just the beginning. Once investigators dug deeper, they found more than fraud. Millions stolen from clients, money funneled through shell companies, lies to his own law firm to cover the schemes. The layers of deception were staggering. What started as a fake roadside shooting became a massive criminal investigation. Every lie Alex told only led investigators to uncover the next one. Then, the situation escalates even further. By October 21, prosecutors charged Alex with dozens of financial crimes. The headlines explode. Lawyer steals millions from clients. No one could have imagined a respected attorney from one of South Carolina's most prominent families committing crimes on this scale. And the arrest story doesn't end there. By July 2022, the world sees a shocking turn. Alex is indicted for the murders of his wife Maggie and son Paul. The roadside shooting, the rehab arrest, the financial crimes, all of it leads to a single conclusion. Alex Murdaugh wasn't a victim of circumstance. He was the architect of chaos, and his own lies had finally caught up with him. From the stage shooting to the rehab arrest to the avalanche of charges, Alex's story is a cautionary tale. When you build your life on lies, the fall is not just unavoidable. It's bound to happen.